So there's a interesting correlation between running a business and coaching a team that I thought would be interesting to explore today. Coaches look to create a culture, get a buy-in from their players, and then execute their plan. Sounds simple, right? But why are so many teams successful and others not? Same with businesses. As business owners, we're looking to create a culture, get a buy-in from our team, and execute our strategic plan. So why are certain businesses more successful than others? I'm kdee, President of Osage Advisors. Welcome back to our podcast, The Ins and Outs of Selling a Business. So to help us break this down today, I'm really happy to have with us Brent Robertson. Brent is founder of Fathom. Fathom provides not only executive coaching, but they do a much deeper dive into the fabric of a business and their employees. So Brent, right? You got two equal things here, plans sound similar, but the execution piece sometimes doesn't end up being successful. And that's where you kind of come in. So maybe you can share with the audience a little bit about your background, and let's kind of delve into this question of how you approach it to help maybe some underperforming businesses and their teams, rise to the occasion so they can, create value. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do, create value.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, just to set some context, my involvement with leadership of organizations tends to involve those that are really interested in getting the most out of their leadership and their leadership team, those that are looking to get the most impact from their vision or strategic plan, right? They actually want it to translate into the outcomes that they're hoping for. And those that really want to get the most out of their experience of, what it's like to be in the front lines of actually leading a human system in an organization. So what I find interesting is we spend a lot of time, and there's a lot of vocabulary that speaks to the things that we aspire to as it relates to the characteristics of a successful team. So we use words like alignment, we use words like agreement, we use, all of these things that we want to see be true. But what doesn't get served is, alignment is a consequence of something.
Right.
Right. And so what is the work of actually coming to, again, I'll use the word alignment. Alignment is a condition in which you achieve through a dedicated effort. And so we'll say we want alignment, but we don't spend a lot of time really understanding, how do we actually accomplish it? What's its purpose? And how do we use alignment in a way that moves our organization forward? And so I see for a lot of organizations focused on objectives, they want sort of levels of performance. And sometimes they'll have a team that's successful and sometimes they won't. And it seems like sort of happenstance that occurs, that whether there's chemistry or wasn't chemistry. I would argue actually to be very consistent in creating high performance teams takes a real care and feeding for creating conditions for that team to be successful. And in our pursuit of agendas and objectives, we tend not to spend the time on creating conditions that favor the team to be successful in the first place. And so they fail or they don't, we're not sure why. And when they succeed, we tend to try to replicate that somehow, and it never works because it's different circumstances, different people. We miss the core point of what does it take to actually create and cultivate a team that can be consistently high performing, no matter what the circumstances are or how things change, and even as players on that team come on and off the field to play.
Yeah, that's a great point because, when we're working with business owners, we're getting ready to sell. We always talk about, your team and what level of responsibilities they have. Are you the person that, feeds the sales channel? Or have you created a structure, an organization that, is tasked to do that? We don't necessarily get into detail how, about how those people feel, right? And what ends up happening is, as you get further down the process of selling your business, you need to bring people into the fold. And when they come into the fold, all of a sudden it's like, what's going on here? And what does it mean for me? Right? Where they haven't been part of an organization So it raises questions in their mind. Is this the right deal for me? Do I want to stay on here? You can just keep on checking off the list, or listing them out. And sometimes it causes friction that was never there before, because people just come in, do their jobs and leave, whether they're happy or not. You think they're happy, but they're not going to say they're not happy, or maybe not speak up to you because they're the fear factor.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of stuff is really critical. And what you find in the buyer pool today, it's very sophisticated. They look at that kind of thing. Not initially, right? We got numbers, right? Here's the numbers. Here's the multiple. Here's the price. But when they take a deep dive into your leadership team during due diligence, things come up that could, have consequences, maybe with the deal itself. So, how do you, when you get owner, and it's not, by the way, it's not just the people within your business, it's the people outside your business, right? Because we deal with family, closely held companies. It's the family members, whether they're in the business or not, have kind of got your ear, and they're want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of stuff coming at you as a business owner. And so when you go into a situation, which is, typically hopefully way before they're ready to sell, how do you start addressing some of these deeper context issues to, alignment? Yes, but what does that all mean?
Yeah. A way that I often think about it and work with my clients is the metaphor of the water we're swimming in. What's the condition of the water that we're swimming in? Do we even notice the water that we're in? And often that isn't the case. It's like if I step back and I look at the health and condition of the water, what do I notice about it? What I find is critical for an organization to be able to achieve its highest valuation is the ability for that the conditions that allow for teams to perform at their best are well known and they're lovingly cared for. Well known, lovingly cared for. When I say well known, they're well known and explicitly languaged. Like, here are the tenets that we know if those conditions are available to us, we can be at our best. And they're cared for from the standpoint is there's dedicated time that leadership team is spending on a conversation that is only about what's the health and condition of our relationship with each other. Can we get it to a place where it's more effective, deeper, get out of our own way? Those conversations aren't happening enough. We just rush to the to-do list and the agendas. We don't take the time to just check in on, okay, well, what's our condition? If we look at it from a mathematical perspective, it's very clear. Let's just say, every person in your organization is a numeral, right? And say 0 to 5, 0 being the worst possible condition, like there's nothing of me available, to 5 being there couldn't be more of me available. I'm fully expressed in the organization. If we look at it mathematically, if our condition has to be that we're operating at, 1s and 2s, then the numerator in the math, reflects that, right?
Right, exactly.
If we take a moment to simply elevate our condition, then we may move to a 4 or 5. That math works much better. And if we think about leadership teams as the most influential people inside of an organization, if we're operating at a compromised condition, well, so is the quality of any effort we put forward. If we elevate our condition, then anything we touch is going to have greater effect. So, and I'll put it to you this way, and I share this a lot as a way to sort of provoke this. Like, what would you say about a coach that would field a team of players on any professional field of play, fundamentally unaware of the condition of that team? Like, what would you say about that coach?
He's failing, right? They're going to be at that low rung year after year after year. And the fans are going to question, why are we like this?
Yeah.
Right? What's happening behind that locker room door that is affecting? We have good, strong players. We have the top talent that came out of college from Georgia, Alabama, LSU, you name it, right? And then we got to this level, and we're still year after year getting the top draft pick, the top every year, and we're still down here.
That's right.
What is going on?
Yeah. So what would you say about a leader who would field a team in the theater of surgery, unaware of the condition of that team?
That would be a high risk endeavor that I would not want to be a patient.
Right. So if we all consider ourselves professionals, how much of our average agenda or our average meeting is specifically dedicated to assessing and elevating the condition of the team? So my experience in working with hundreds of leaders all over the world is almost none.
Yeah, I would say
Almost none.
Look, before I founded Osage, I actually ran a couple manufacturing companies as president and CEO, and it was like we've had a monthly, daily meeting. I call them coffees, hallway coffees. And I'd meet with the production manager, I'd meet with the sales, I'd meet with the financial people in the hallway for 50 minutes. So what's going on? What's the day look like? Are we on track to get the shipments out? And then we'd have a more intense 1 hour meeting at the end of the week with the sales team, with the manufacturing team, with the financial team. But we talk about execution of, did we deliver our products today? What's our backlog? We never really, honestly, we never really talked about some of the things you're talking about. How are you feeling? Right? How are your team feeling?
How are we?
Right. What's going on behind us? And maybe a key factor would trigger that question to take a deeper dive would be, how come so-and-so and so-and-so quit and we replaced them and then they quit again? What is going on?
Yeah. What are we not?
What are we missing?
What are we not taking responsibility for? That's a condition that's causing people to not want to stay.
Right.
And we could easily, and I see this a lot where leaders will deflect that, well, it must be a character flaw of those people. It couldn't be us. It's like, no, what's the condition of this place we're inviting people to come spend time? What's the experience they're having of this organization? When it comes down to it is leadership, a clearly understood awareness of the conditions that favor success. I call it resilient performance, where leadership teams are able to be incredibly resilient, deal with all kinds of adversity and change, and not just settle back to normal performance when those things happen, but to actually have those things become a catalyst of increased performance. Even as members of that team change, even as the conditions change, maybe even ownership changes, those are the organizations that are not only wildly successful in their form of existence, whoever owns them, but even through a major transition. I do a ton of work in succession, right?
Right.
They're able to be achieving higher levels of performance through things which would typically, like a sale or succession, those things would typically challenge an organization's performance, and often we'll see a downward blip in performance when those things happen. Instead, it actually flips the other way to say that any kind of transition, especially at the scale of ownership or leadership, is simply a catalyst. And if we look at it as a catalyst, how do we take advantage of it as an opportunity to grow? The organizations that care deeply for the conditions that favor the performance of their team simply do better. And they do better no matter what those challenges are. And as things change in the marketplace, the dynamics of their business or different leaders coming in, because they're the ones that are preserving and lovingly caring for the conditions that allow their teams to thrive. And it's the biggest difference, and you probably see this all the time, I'd be curious about it, is, there's sort of two extremes of sort of a leadership modality inside of an organization. One is cult of personality, where the leadership is built around a person or a person or two, and their personality is driving the performance of the organization. That's pretty fragile, because the minute that personality is not part of the system, it doesn't know how to operate in the absence of that personality. The other is a principle-driven leadership team, which is driven by principles in which the entire leadership team aspires to live up to. Those are very transferable. Those are the ones where that consistency in practice and caring for those ideas can maintain itself even under change. So if I were a buyer, which one would I want to be more interested in? Right?
Exactly. Well, it's interesting because we deal a lot with family businesses, and I was triggering a thought process when you were going through this about the company to a lot of employees is their family, right? I mean, they have their family, but they come here. Some of these people have been here for 30 years, 40 years, whatever. They've been there. So-and-so just retired for 50 years of service. I read something, an article in the paper the other day, but those problems come with them to the business, outside of business, but they come to them, right? Maybe not them, but my son just got picked up for DUI. I got to go bail him out. And, year after year, that culture, that, statesman, that father figure or mother figure, they come to them and say, look, I got to, and they help him up. That's it. So if you kind of take that person out, like you're saying, all of a sudden you kind of orphan these people.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen? On the rudderless, what's going to happen? So under that culture, like you're saying, buyers look at it, without you, we got nothing. You got to be committed to staying here. And, it's a reality check for a business owner, realizing that I built this thing and I can't exactly exit the way I want to, because without me, I don't have a buyer. So I got to commit. Now, if you're 55 or 60 years old or even 65, that's one thing. But if you're 70, it becomes a whole different ballgame. So, to your point, things will trigger that, kind of trigger that, how people react to certain situations in a business. I'll give you, so we always go back to the COVID, right? Now, when we were selling companies after COVID, a number of our clients pivoted because of the market, because of the virus, because of a million things. And their employees rallied around them together. And they're actually more successful, or as successful they were pre-COVID, and it opened their eyes, and everybody was a buy-in, so it became everybody really focused on it. And we pitched that and talked about it and marketed that to potential buyers. Hey, look, these guys went from this worst situation you could possibly imagine. Who the heck knew we were going to have the worst pandemic in over 100 years? And they came out of it stronger. That should go to the strength of the management team, which has always looked at the buyer. And we had other buyers, to this day, by the way, have not recovered.
Yep. We saw through that, it was an extraordinary time, of course, because it was a sort of hopefully once in a lifetime experience where we're all in this shared crisis. I saw sort of three extreme behaviors of the leadership and a clear reflection of the performance of those organizations. So we'll say the neutral was, we'll wait this out. That was one position. Right. We'll just stay status quo as long as we can, wait this out. That was one position. The unhealthy response was receding into unhealthy behavior, control, and constraint. And those organizations significantly receded in their performance, if not into oblivion. And then there was those that said, okay, what does this unique experience allow for that we could take advantage of? Because the crisis simply, in one way, allowed organizations to challenge their own status quo, right? And whenever we challenge our status quo, it simply puts cracks in the calcified way in which we're familiar operating, and it lets the light in. And so for the leaders that were willing to look at where's the light coming in these cracks and what is it exposing, and are we okay with that? A lot of those organizations realize, wow, there is a unique opportunity to invest in innovation now, so that when we come out of the other end of this thing, we're going to be in a different position. In others, it was a chance to say, hey, you know what? Our status quo maybe not all that okay for everybody. What if we change some things around our culture to make it healthier? Those organizations thrived, multiples of performance, the ones that seized the opportunity to take that change, that crisis, and use it as an opportunity to change some things. Those that stood still, they slid backwards. And of course, those that went into unhealthy behavior of trying to control the situation or going back into, sort of like more antiquated ways of leading and managing, they really suffered. So it was really interesting how those things played out. And, of course, the work that we do helps organizations to become much more open to and changeable in adverse situations of adversity and change. And it's incredible where we had one client go from 2 companies to a 10-company enterprise.
Wow.
In that time period. We had another organization, 100-plus-year-old organization, invent a brand new service offering, which is now becoming their main revenue generator in that time. Just changed the game dramatically for both of these organizations because they just ran toward it.
Right. And then, so after COVID, so like we'll give you an example, hand sanitizer, right? Wipes, boom, and, this and stuff. So we had companies that pivoted right away. Right? We had a client that made safety signs, right? As soon as he thought he was going out of business, he was done. But he says, okay, what am I going to do? So he was the first guy to the market with all these COVID signs. Wear a mask, wash your hands, 6 feet back, stop, right? You name it. And he had a huge bump in revenues that year because he was the first to market. He beat his competition. He invested in it. He took that. He rolled the dice. I'm doing this. We're going for it. Everybody buy in. Let's go. Right. So what's up happening? A year later, we're selling the company, and people said, buyers ask questions about everything. He says, what about your COVID bump? I said, is that sustainable? It's like you do something great.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You do something great for your team, and then the buyer comes in and is like, was that sustainable?
Yeah.
Right. And the answer was, we acquired something, I don't remember. It was out of all the 75% of the new customers we acquired are still with us today, buying our old products because now this thing is up. Because we had 5 million, or I don't know what the number was. We had X amount of this, and now it's down to like this, but those customers didn't go away. So it was incredible.
Yeah.
So Brent, look, this is like a conversation we gotta continue on. So I'd like to have you back. I mean, for our next episode, let's talk about the culture. Let's talk about some examples, and if that works for you, we'll have you back on the next episode. That would be terrific.
Yeah, I feel like we just scratched the surface of some big stuff today.
Yeah, you got my mind thinking here. So, anyways, great topic, great conversation, business culture. Again, my name's kdee. I'm president of Osage Advisors. We're a boutique M&A firm working with business owners and their families looking to sell. Typically, our clients are $5 million in revenue and up. I hope you enjoyed our podcast today, the ins and outs of selling your business. If you do, please feel free to subscribe to it. You can reach us at our website, osageadvisors.com. You can email me at kdee@osageadvisors.com, or feel free to pick up the phone and give me a call at 860-767-3273, extension 1001. Thanks for being with us, and have a great day.